I was living under the rock for the past 2 weeks. I'm sorry, I have no idea what the MCP is, and in this video we will explore this together and I will give you my thoughts and conclusions on how valuable it actually is as an agency owner who only for the past 2 weeks sold $20,000 worth of AI solutions to businesses. That's why it was busy. So I am not your average tech bro who will give you development tutorials, guidelines, and courses on how to use and install it. No, like I will come from the AI agency standpoint, understanding how valuable it is for us to implement into other businesses and make money from this. And I'm not your average hi bro that will tell you that this is the only technology that you need that will revolutionize the world and everything will become like AI powered tomorrow. Okay, so I have watched a few videos briefly to understand what they are all about and chose two from obviously Greg, and I think he introduced some sort of an expert who is explaining what it actually is all about. Found this guy. Not sure, how legit he is. He's probably like showing a few examples with N8N. So let's view it together and, explore what this new hype thing, Jesus Christ, you can see how many videos I have about it, is all about. Okay?
Everyone is talking about MCPs. It's gone completely clear Professor Rosmike explanation. Yes, I've read a bunch of threads on it and I've seen a couple videos on it, but there's nothing like a Rosmike explanation. So I'm here for the what do I need to know about MCPs, and that's why you're here. Thank you for coming on.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yeah,
okay,
they allow for us,
sir.
And the reason why standards are important is they allow screen. Okay, so understanding MCP is really important, but you also realize the benefits and why it's sort of a big deal, but not really at the same time. You see, one of the things in programming land that we have.
Okay, so I like the guy because he's why it's a big deal and not really at the same time. And from what I saw, for the past month of new companies introducing new models, new ways of interacting with the AI, this is a really good title for the whole for the whole industry. It's good, but or what he said. It's valuable, but not.
You see, one of the things in programming
really
that we
is,
have and that programmers love are standards. And the reason why standards are important is they allow for us engineers to build systems that communicate with each other. The most popular one that you might have heard of, or you might not. You don't really need to know the details. Is REST APIs, and they're basically a standard that every company follows when they construct their APIs, when they construct their services. For me as an engineer to be able to connect with them. Now, understanding that engineering is all about standards and having these formalities we follow to make life easier. When we think of in the context of an LLM, I want you to understand this one important thing. LLMs by themselves are incapable of doing anything meaningful.
Okay, so here's explaining like the LLM by itself, LLM with tools, and LLM with the MCP. Okay, that's interesting. We'll skip kind of this part because, yeah, probably what he's saying is that LLMs are great by itself, but the power is actually when you connect the different tools together, right? And this is what we do as, agency owners. We usually, when we implement an AI solution, agent, chatbot, or workflow, if this is not a linear workflow, and if this is the workflow that involves an agent identifying the intent of the user, we are usually connecting different tools together, right? And this would be my bet. Again, okay, to be completely honest, I watched like a few videos and I heard about MCP because this was introduced probably last year by Anthropic, and usually, let me give you my prediction. Seeing 50 plus solutions that we built, and by the way, you can verify that I'm legit by going through this YouTube channel. I actually show you real life client builds based on their real company information and real websites. I blew some information out, or you can go to our website and see the case studies. Now, what I'm saying is that after building 50 plus production ready solutions and probably 100 plus something agents that are would not actually production ready with just prototypes, demos, and pilots, I can tell you that on average we connect, I would say, maybe 2 to 3 APIs, and it's not the actual API request that we do. It's more like the actual software. For example, like the calendar and the CRM, or the ERP and the Supabase or Airtable, right? So it's usually, obviously there could be more, and for example, for each app you can have multiple endpoints, yeah, sure, but this is what we usually do. I will share a few examples later in the video, so let's continue watching this.
What do I mean by that? If you remember the first, ChatGPT 3, or was it 3.5, I'm not sure. But if you just open any chatbot and you do, right? Yeah. So LLMs have started to become a bit more powerful when we connected tools to them, right? Yeah. I can give you an example. Let's say every time I get an email, I want there to be an entry in a spreadsheet. Now, an Iron Man level Jarvis assistant is because combining these tools, making it work with the LLM is one thing, but then stacking these tools on top of each other, making it cohesive, making it work together is a nightmare itself. And this is where we're currently at. And this, before I continue, does this make sense? This is where we started. LLMs by themselves, write me a poem, tell me about World War I. And then the second evolution is, we now have tools, right? We now have these things, these external services that we can connect. And you have to make sure the LLM doesn't hallucinate or do something stupid. And believe it or not,
just crystal clear. I'm loving this.
Beautiful.
Quick break in the pod. I'm gonna start up and just.
Today we launched Voice AI in VoiceFlow. This is a brand
Brandon is doing the ads for me on the VoiceFlow. Okay.
Now enters MCP. And what does MCP mean? I think the simplest way, right, without getting too technical, I've read the threads too, and as a technical person, I appreciate it, but for the non-techie, I can assume it's frustrating. Think of it this way. Think of every tool that I have to connect to make my LLM valuable as a different language. So tool 1's English, tool 2 is Spanish, tool 3 is Japanese, right? And imagine every tool, it's its own language. And it's not that there isn't a standard for how APIs work, but every service provider constructs their APIs differently. There's different information you have to pass. There's just various degree of things that you have to set up. That, again, it just feels like gluing a bunch of different things together. Will it work? Yes, but at scale, it gets very difficult. MCP, you can consider it to be a layer between your LLM and the services and the tools. And this layer translates all those different languages into a unified language that makes complete sense to the LLM, right? So it's the evolution of LLM plus tools, but in this evolution...
Okay. Trying to understand. So there's a tools, right, that you connect, let's say like Google API, you connect some sort of a Gmail API, or you connect some sort of an, like HubSpot API. And instead of connecting these APIs by like creating HTTP requests for each one of these, you create what you create? I have no idea. I don't understand.
It makes it very simple for the LLM to connect and to access different outside resources, right? Because that's what tools are at the end of the day. So with MCP, I'm able to connect to an outside data source, an outside database, maybe a tool like Convex or Superbase, right? Imagine I just tell the LLM, create me a new entry in my database, and it's connected to my database via MCP, and it knows exactly what to do and how to do. In the second evolution, LLMs and tools, there's a lot of manual work that goes on. There's a lot of step-by-step planning that you have to do, and there's a lot of edge cases where it can fail. And this is why, again, none of us, as exciting as the space is, none of us have a Jarvis level assistant yet. It feels like we're there and we're close, but this system makes it so that it's very difficult. And what's frustrating is this. Imagine, let me think of a simple service, a simple tool. Imagine every time a Slack message comes, your LLM reads that Slack message and it shoots you a text, right? Sounds pretty trivial. Here's the frustrating part. Imagine Slack updates their API, or the text service updates, makes a change. And let's say that service is connected to other services, or you have some sort of automation step-by-step thing that you've planned.
Okay, so it feels like this is some sort of a standardized way to communicate with different tools. But I again, so as a not super technical person, which is, by the way, building most of the things that we build, at least on the overview standpoint myself, I understand the how the solutions should be structured from a customer standpoint. And obviously that's why I have 4 developers that are working for me, as we have 2 no-coder guys and 2 on the backend side that are pretty sharp with the C# as well as the Python. Now, so what I'm thinking is they're listing that this is the problem. He's listing that this you change the APIs and it starts breaks it. Okay, but see, we never face this problem because when we talk about Jarvis, right? And I heard about this example from Jarvis. Jarvis is obviously in artificial intelligence from the Iron Man that can do everything. When you talk about Jarvis, yeah, probably this is the use case, right? So when you're trying to connect hundreds of different APIs and different apps together, yes. But see, let's go to N8N. I had a very simple example of the Instagram agent that I was Instagram scraper revised. Not sure what this is, but okay. So let's say this is the agent and it's scraping different. We have the API here, and we have different endpoints for scraping certain information from the Instagram. So and what they're saying is probably we need some sort of a node that will identify by itself what things to run. But I have the problem with this. I like to have a full control over what is going on. That's why every time that we create text-based agents, we are actually using VoiceFlow because this is the most this is the best software when it comes to text-based agents where you can control each and every part. So let me give you an example. Obviously, some of you know that I have a software called OnePrompt. This is like a suite of production-ready tools. So, for example, if you come in, you get access to the omnichannel agent, which is production-ready, which you can deploy in a few kind of hours. Okay, so here we have quite a few automations, right? And like you can further resell it. This is not the point. What I'm saying is that this agent is connected to this omnichannel VoiceFlow bot. Okay, so VoiceFlow acting like an engine, and the OnePrompt is acting as a front end and as a interface that you can provide to your customers and sell this actual like service and manage the whole pipeline. Now, what I'm saying is that here, like for example, here we don't even have APIs. Okay, so I have another, because one of the solutions within the OnePrompt is the inbound voice AI agent, and it's built on top of the retail and VoiceFlow also, because VoiceFlow has the voice APIs and voice capabilities. So here you can see that we have an agent, and that is processing like service requests through the knowledge base, and we have the billing question, and we have book appointment and reschedule appointment. Now, so essentially these are like the functions, and we have like the API call here. For the billing, we're like using the Airtable, and in the real use case, you'll connect it to the booking software, for example, that the company use, like QuickBooks. And here you would like connect it to the N8N, and the actual N8N has a few connections to Google. So if we say VoiceFlow get billing, check availability, right? So here, this agent is connecting to this N8N workflow that has, a few calendar. Now, so picture this. This is a real solution, right? So this is a production-ready thing that you can get access to. But it doesn't have too much APIs. And yes, obviously it is simplified. We are not like selling it like that, because usually, the company might have their calendar APIs depending on the calendar, especially if it's, a service-based business, or like in the medical space, they would have their own softwares. So you would need to figure this out separately. But like usually you do not have hundreds of APIs that you connect to. And I'm not saying, like, I'm generalizing. I would say in 95% of the cases, you are having a certain amount of softwares that you're going to connect to, and you have a certain amount of API endpoints. And like it's going to be maximum like 10 endpoints, maximum. Again, sorry guys, I know that some of you may already like build something or like actively selling, and you have, like the things that you've been selling, which are pretty complex. Yeah, sure. But from my standpoint, from an actual business perspective, I'm telling you that this is not the thing. So we are not usually building a Jarvis for the companies, right? So we are Jarvis. So we're not building Jarvises with like their all the softwares together and like working together as a whole organism. This is the future, and I think that there are, some use cases for this. But from an company standpoint, like if we analyze, okay, so probably the prospect enrichment is connected to Clay APIs, okay, inbound agent like retail plus like calendar N8N, so omnichannel VoiceFlow plus like calendar and Airtable. So see, like, because these are the things that we've been selling, and it's like, again, okay, so let's actually watch further.
It becomes terrifying, and this is why even in the age of LLMs, good engineers will still get paid, because stuff like this exists. But what MCP does, it unifies the LLM and the service, right? It creates this layer where the service and the LLM can communicate efficiently. Now, let's get into some practicality. You can think of the MCP ecosystem as follows: you have an MCP client, you have the protocol, you have an MCP server, and you have a service, right? An MCP client is something like Tempo, Windsurf, Cursor, and they are basically the client-facing side, the LLM-facing side of this ecosystem.
Okay.
The protocol, again, is that two-way connection between the client and the server. And the server is what translates that external service, its capabilities, and what it can do to the client.
Okay, I will stop it here, and I think we'll not go further. Now, I don't really like the fact that the guys are... We'll see what this guy says. Because like they're saying, and I watched a few videos, so what everyone is saying, this is like the unified way of communicating, and like maybe the terminology is not wrong, please, hate me in the comments, but like this is a standardized way to simplify the, everything. But when in reality, like, the Claude plus API docs is good enough, because the majority of the softwares that you're gonna connect to the actual solution, right? They will have a really good docs. And let's use N8N as an example. Again, like it doesn't matter like what tool you use. So here, tool in terms like the software, not this tool, okay? Like the software. And so, yeah, sure, like you say, okay, in order to build something for the client, I need, 5 APIs. Okay, good. And there's everything can be changed, the big guys, change their APIs or update their APIs like what? Like every 2 years, it's not a problem. So now you have their API docs and you upload it to Claude, and in Claude will like give you an exact instructions on what to put here. So for the no coder, it's not a problem, like, because this is simple. But like this stuff is okay, Joe Post, I don't need a job, I'm sorry, yet. So like this stuff already is complicated for me as a like person who's like never coded. And it seems like the fact that a disclaimer, yeah, sure, like I get it. Like I get that it's gonna evolve and it's gonna be simple. Right now it may be like pain in the ass to actually install it. This is not the point what people are making. It's more like where we are moving towards. I get it, right? So I get it, but I still think that when it comes to production ready solutions, this is like usually not the problem that everyone is facing. Now, the problem when we are building Jarvis, yeah, sure, there's like tens of thousands of APIs. I'm like, that's crazy, but probably not. So there's a video that from the guy called Ben AI. He is, he's like recording the videos on whatever, like the like on the relevance, and the video got like 500,000 views of the AI agent team that automates all your work and does everything for you. There is a few N8N army whatever, so it became like kind of popular. So Nate was, Jesus Christ, like 500,000 views. So yeah, sure. Like this is specifically why the MCP matter. I think I have no idea on the technical side, but it seems like for the armies like of these agents, right? This is like a really good thing. It's maybe standardized. You don't need to have like this crazy complex workflows. You can just simplify it in some sort of a way. But now this video is all about selling and making money with the automations, and not just building some cool, fancy, things in your bedroom and like show it to your mom, say, hey, like here's the agent that does everything for me, right? So we're talking business. In the business scenarios, it's very hard to be sold. Like I would bet that anyone sold something like that for multiple four figures. Maybe there are like people that are interested, and that's why these guys have their like communities where they provide the templates and people build it for themselves. Yeah, sure, there's a whole industry, and that's why there's a personal assistant Jarvis. That's cool, right? I think it's valuable, and I think this is like it's very important for these guys to exist and to open the new horizons as what possible. I am solely speaking from the business perspective. This is not the case for selling AI to businesses or for businesses to implement the AI solutions. Now you may say, okay, Eugene, I don't really agree with you, because each business has, let's say, CRM, let's say the book, okay, whatever, booking software, or the Google, let's say we'll have the, tax is like the actual financial software. What we have, project management. So like, yeah, sure. And each of these softwares have like, let's say like 5 APIs or 10 APIs. It's like 10 API endpoints, right? So 5, 5, 5, and now we have like 25 endpoints that we need to work on. Each of these things have their, documentation. Yeah, sure, I get it. But for the past 2 years, I was not able to find a use case that companies are ready to pay money for and see the return on investment for building something like that, especially when we talk about sensitive information or the information that needs to be provided accurately to the end user. So usually it's, like 3 max, and each one would have 2 or 3. So it's like in total, as I was saying, like 10 endpoints, which these softwares update every 5 years, and you can literally figure this out. I mean, I have the development team, but you can figure this out, and this is what I was like showing on this YouTube channel through the cloud. So see, it's like I just don't see the problem. Okay, I don't really see the problem. Now let's actually watch this guy and let's see what he has to say.
If your AI agent could instantly understand and use any software tool without you manually setting it up. That is the potential of MCP, which is a standardized way for AI agents to discover and use tools and data sources. The best way to explain MCP is to actually show you an example. And there's now an N8N community module that was published 2 days ago that you can actually play around with. So here I have a typical AI agent in N8N. This is a Google Calendar agent. And as you can see here, you have various tools, view calendar events, checking availability, updating and deleting events. And as you can see, for this calendar agent, I need to be quite specific around its capabilities. I need to create tools for different actions, and then within the system prompt for this calendar agent, I need to hard code some sort of procedure around how to actually use these tools. An agent can figure out how to use tools, but generally from my experience, you need to be quite descriptive with agents on how to actually use the tools to get the right outcome. So this is quite a time-consuming process, and it doesn't scale well with the more tools and the more agents that you have in a potential multi-agent system.
Yeah, for now, he's explaining great. So you do need to dial in the prompt. You need to understand like what information to capture and when to run the tool. Yeah, sure. Awesome. Great.
However, with MCP, it's a completely different approach. So if we zoom in here, you can see that instead of listing the specific tools and the various actions, we now just have a single endpoint, which is list the tools. So you're going to an MCP server, let's say for Google Calendar, and the agent is asking, give me all the available tools that you have. It'll respond with all its tools, and then you can execute one of those tools. But it doesn't stop there. You can also ask it to provide prompt templates to use those tools.
List prompts for what?
I think there's huge potential in this aspect of it, because it's not enough to actually know what tools to call. That's the same as having any API endpoint. But to actually have prompt templates on how to call those tools to get the best outcome is very different from a standard API kind of documentation. The other thing you can do is you can ask the service to list the resources it has available. So
wait. Sorry. Is it just only me? But I'm trying to understand, because he's saying, okay, there's a prompt. There's because there's a list of tools. There is execute tool, execute specific tool, and maybe this is where we're saving, right? So we don't need to execute 5 tools since it's just one module. Okay, but list prompts. I have no idea what the list prompts is, because are you providing the prompt or you're not providing the prompt?
Tools to get the best outcome is very different.
Because with the simple N8N agents, he said you provide the prompt and you instruct the AI how to call the tool, but I would imagine that you still need to do it somewhere, right? Because AI LLMs are working based on the instructions that you provide.
From a standard API kind of documentation. The other thing you can do is you can ask the service to list the resources it has available. So this could be the contents of files, it could be database records, screenshots, images, live system data, and then you also have an action to get that specific resource to then bring it into the agent's context. So to compare the two approaches then, with the traditional N8N agent tool approach, you're being hyper-specific around what tools to call, and then in a system prompt, how to interact with those tools, whereas in this approach, it's completely abstracted. And the beauty of this type of approach is that as more tools are added to, let's say, Google Calendar's MCP server, they'll automatically become available to your agent without you needing to actually edit the N8N workflow or the N8N agent itself. So these agents can actually evolve in their capabilities as tools get added on the server side, or maybe as tools improve on the server side. So as you can tell, there's huge potential for this type of
Okay. So sounds cool. Again, so sounds cool when you are saying that you can create. So this thing adds an endpoint, and you don't need to manually dial it into your AI agent, and it will be automatically updated in in the MCP. So MCP still needs to be updated, but it's not on your side, right? It's automatic. Okay, good, but I understand that you're trying to. So see, this is the thing. When we are building a ready to something, the solution that we're selling, yeah, sure, there's a pilot, prototype, final solution, improvements, management, right? So there's multiple stages of the working with any company. So, and sure, here we might only access for example the CRM. Here we'll also add this, and here we'll add this too, but it's not they're evolving. I mean, they're adding new APIs. Maybe it's relevant for new startup softwares, but Google Calendar, I'm not sure if they will ever the next year add the new endpoints. Okay, so it's just a matter of how do you want to connect right now. So I don't get the the hype and the point around it to be updated within the MCP something on the back end. Sorry guys, I'm not technical, I'm just reviewing what I see, and it sounds cool, but okay, so what
architecture for AI agents of the future. And this NNN module that you see here was only released 2 days ago, so this is very raw. It's not a core module, it's a community module, so it will evolve and mature over time as the MCP standard evolves and matures as well. So in this video, I'm going to go through how to set up these MCP clients and servers to interact with the Brave search engine, Firecrawl scraping service, as well as the GitHub service. I also play around with setting up puppeteer editors like Cursor and Windsurf, but MCP can be very useful. Go remote services to access files or APIs.
Jeez, okay, so my brain is kind of already dying because of these things. But again, so I'm not like, I'm not saying that this is, you know, the MCP is trash because of its complexity. I get the point that it's gonna be easy in like 2 years, 2 months, I would imagine. Like the NNN and other like will kind of implement their like own, you know, nodes or something. So it's gonna be easy. I'm just like reviewing the actual like idea behind it.
APIs or databases or whatever it is. So having this concept of a USB connector is incredibly powerful because it can have lots of different servers and they're all then connected into your host. And because they're abstracted away from your application, they can be maintained themselves. These features can be added in a USB for AI models. And you can kind of see this here in this architectural diagram. A video by my friend Rob, who goes through it brilliantly step by step. I'll leave a link for this in the description below. Anthropic have described MCP as a USB for AI models. And you can kind of see this here in this architectural diagram. You have your AI agent host, which could be called desktop, or as we're going to go through in today's video, it could be N8N. And by hosting what they call an MCP client, that can then be plugged into any MCP server. And that server then is connected into local or remote services to access files or APIs or databases or whatever it is. So having this concept of a USB connector is incredibly powerful because it can have lots of different servers and they're all then connected into your host. And because they're abstracted away from your application, they can be maintained themselves, new features can be added, they can be improved, and the agent will always get the benefits of the improved code. So this type of abstraction clearly has its benefits, but it also comes at a cost. When we look at a typical NNN AI agent tool, it's usually the application code that's triggering the API of the service directly and getting responses back. So clearly that's a lot simpler, there are a lot less moving parts. Whereas with having this middleman of an MCP server, you're absolutely adding to the complexity, and there are also security concerns because traditionally your application, NNN for example, when connecting to a service, will just be authenticating the
Okay, I like the guy. So he's pointing to like, it's literally adding the complexity because of having the middleman, right? So you have something, you know, you have like you, right? So you have, let's say it's you have some sort of a weird P or something, and then you have a company, right? Or like the actual, does it look like a house? Okay, so complexity 1 and security 2. Yeah, sure. So isn't it just easier to connect the APIs like that?
Directly. So you just need to make sure that you secure your host and that the communication back and forth is encrypted. By adding in this additional layer, these MCP servers, the authentication happens at the server level here, no longer at the host. So this brings with the challenges for authentication, but also authorization. So are you authorized to carry out specific actions within the service even if you are authenticated? While there is huge potential in MCP for agents, it is very much dependent on this standard actually being adopted by the industry. And there are so many examples in the past where great standards have been published but shunned by key players for various commercial reasons. But whether it's MCP or a future standard that's published and adopted by everyone, there is clearly a need for some sort of seamless way to plug in software applications into our AI agents without needing to reinvent it, which needs to run somewhere, either permanently or ad hoc. And it usually has a public repository on GitHub that is available through different package managers, be it for Python or for Node. So for my scraping agent, which uses Firecrawl, this MCP server is available in this GitHub repository, Firecrawl, to scrape this page, and then it's going to respond with the scrape.
Okay.
Goes to execute that.
So now, I'm super curious. So we'll go into the details because like to see an actual use case, but so right now, let's like evaluate what we have right now as the, you know, in the middle of the video. This is not easier, right? So this is not easier than to set up than through the APIs. Doesn't matter. Like if you are, even if you're, okay, so even if you're getting the one prompt license link in the description below, and you're getting, you know, the ready to sell solution, and you're, let's say, talking about the inbound or like omnichannel agent that you can connect to like WhatsApp, Instagram, or the website chatbot. And here, it's not going to be easy. So the MCP is not changing anything for us. So because one of the things here that we do within the one prompt, we roll out the updates every 2 weeks. So I don't think that we'll change anything to make it easier, to make the life of our users easier on this side. So here, I mean, even if we have, like, even if I would have, let's say leave. If I have the Instagram scraper, right, I would, sure, it looks like 6 API endpoints, but it's all coming to the actual Epify, so probably will not do anything because, and I'm curious, he's like showing the Firecrawl here because we are using Firecrawl very actively. Like I was showing a few builds within, you know, on this channel with the Firecrawl. I love them. We're using Firecrawl to actually scrape the information from the websites and upload it to the knowledge base of our AI agents. The Firecrawl is actually a part of the prospect enrichment solution. So okay, so let's see if what it does. Okay, let's see.
there is an API that the server is hitting. It can then scrape the web, it can carry out whatever actions it needs to do, and then it communicates back through the server, back to the client, and then the agent outputs. So we can see this here. If we connect up our chat interface, I'll clear my session, and then I'll just say scrape this page, and I'll just give it the web address of our website. And you can see it's going to the list of tools to find out what this Firecrawl MCP server can do. It learns what its capabilities are, and then it goes to execute that tool in Firecrawl to scrape this page, and then it's going to respond with the scraped results. As you can see, it's provided the scraped markdown on the page, along with even the logo that's in the footer. So that was the full end-to-end from a request in the host.
Okay. I mean, I know, I get it. Like, I'm not trying to be, jerk here. Sure, like, I get that it's just an example, but like, I mean, here you would probably have what? And let's say, okay, let me check. There's a probably in the enrichment. Let me prospect enrichment. So this is one of the workflows that you're getting with the engagement with the prospect enrichment agent from one prompt. So like there's a Firecrawl node with the HTTP request that is like scraping the page, right? Okay, so and it's the standard, like it's the linear workflow. We don't need an agent here, but okay, so you would connect it here. Okay, whatever, right? So you would connect it here. So in this specific case, it will be just easier to like remove. We don't need the list of tools. We just need the execute workflow to scrape it. But again, I understand that it's probably going to be different when you have what? Like if we talk about Firecrawl, Firecrawl has, you can, maybe what you can do is you would have, because Firecrawl is, I don't want to open it and leak my API key. You can scrape it in Markdown, HTML, or pure links, and you can technically do it in separate API request, but you can also provide it as variable, right? So here so let's say you're calling the API of the Firecrawl, and in the actual body you are providing the like markdown, right? So mark down what you want to scrape. So but like you can technically do it as a variable, right? And then you can like this variable will be replaced by the AI agent. So if we ask the AI agent to scrape the page in the markdown HTML, it's gonna be still one. So the Firecrawl has multiple endpoints, yes, but usually everyone that's using like this, they have the map endpoint and like right now extract endpoint, but usually within the workflow we're using like one, maybe max two. So like for the Firecrawl example, there is literally like no way to use it.
And then it goes to execute that tool in Firecrawl to scrape this page, and then it's going to respond with the scraped results. As you can see, it's provided the scraped markdown, because when I first heard server, I assumed it's like a web server. It's something that needs to be running at all times. List configuration. But if you click into the credential, this is MCP server. Okay. So your options are you can either install it so that it's running permanently and listening for connections permanently, or you can use npx, which essentially sets up a temporary server. It downloads the latest version of the package, and then spins it up.
I'm not going to even watch it. npm of this nodes Firecrawl. Where do we provide the prompt, like to run it? Where do we provide the prompt to run?
Or else you can only use SSE, these server sent events. So there's a lot of power in running this locally, communicating with the tools, which should result in much more reliable outcomes from both the servers.
I'm just too bad the coding thing to understand it. Okay.
With an MCP server. Sampling is a really interesting concept because it's all about human in the loop, and it allows an MCP server to communicate with a client and therefore an AI agent who can relay to a user to get it to confirm or reject a specific prompt or a specific action. So this opens a huge amount of flexibility and functionality around this human in the loop design pattern. And then with Roots, because it's all about human in the loop, how you can interact using would result in much more reliable outcomes from both the server server. With the concept of prompts, the server can provide prompt templates to the client. That way it can provide a standardized way of communicating with the tools, which should result in much more reliable outcomes from both the server and the agent. With resources, the MCP server can expose data and content from your service. That could be file contents, database records, images, screenshots, whatever it is. Those are the three main concepts involved. With transports, you saw how you can interact using standard input output, which is more local based, or SSE, server sent events, which is for more remote communication with an MCP server. Sampling is a really interesting concept because it's all about human in the loop, and it allows an MCP server to communicate with a client and therefore an AI agent who can relay to a user to get it to confirm or reject a specific prompt or specific action. So this opens a huge amount of flexibility and functionality around this human in the loop design pattern. And then with Roots, it essentially informs the server as to the boundaries of the service. So it could be different projects, for example, it could be project folders, repository locations, maybe specific kind of client endpoints, something like that. If we're to compare MCP to N8N's agent tools, I think they very much complement each other. There is a large overlap in the sense that with agent tools, you can trigger actions within a service, and with MCP, you can do the exact same thing. So there's clearly overlap there. But obviously the approaches are different. With MCP's decoupled nature, as you can see there, it's very much suited to general purpose agents that could carry out any number of actions within a service. With more traditional N8N agent tools, you have much more control over the agent. You can pick and choose the exact tools that you want to integrate with. You can make sure that they have the correct permissions to actually carry out these actions. So in this case, for example, and then if new tools are added to the MCP server, they'll immediately become available to the agent. So that brings about questions as to backwards compatibility of tools.
Yeah, guys. So I like the guy. We'll put him like this is a pretty nice explanation, and he's self-aware of the fact that it's for the generalized agency, for the generalized agents. This is for the Jarvis. Okay, if you're building Jarvis, yeah, sure. If you're building something that can be actually sold, and if you are trying to make money off this, it's it's not necessary, because again, as I said, like these are 80% of the solutions that we build come from like either of these, like evolve from either of these 6 ready to sell solutions. so they're like acting as a base. And yeah, I think you can just focus on what you're doing. And like by the way, so regarding the human in the loop, we have, so for example, within the omnichannel agent, right? So here, this can be connected to whatever. So Instagram, WhatsApp, SMS, anything. So here, see, there's a trigger, but we have, again, this is like a standardized template. And like we have an intent trigger like human help, right? That is triggering the actual one prompt scenario that is assigning conversation to person. I know that it's this is very requested feature from like different like companies that are like trying to build something that communicates with their clients externally, because there should be like a way for a person to communicate through through the human. And this is done here by like having a standardized workflow, right? And when we say that we want to talk to a human, it's transferring us saying hi. If I say talk to a human, right? Okay. Talk to a human, it will transfer us to this to this workflow, and it will call this API endpoint. And so we have the transfer to human workflow here that will assign person to the human. Now, why I'm saying this and referencing, because he was mentioning the kind of human in the loop functionality. And again, I understand that he's not talking necessarily about like customer-centric agents that are communicating with your customer. This could be an internal tool, sure. But if there's a human in the, like if it is an internal tool, right? So for like to use within like your, company or within the company that you're offering it to, like these guys probably, have a pretty good understanding, or you need to teach them on how to communicate with this. So you don't need a functionality of the human in the loop, but sometimes you do. And again, we're not talking about like linear automations where like, let's say it goes block by block, and if something is broken on like this block, you need the human in the loop. It's a separate story, but you can like technically do it in edit and make in anything, and especially like make edit the new functionality within the human in the loop. And everyone is evolving in this. But what I'm saying is that in the customer centric things, you can do the same thing with this, right? And you can just call and like trigger the human, and like human would review the conversation, right? So human would review the conversation in the conversations tab, and then understand what the customer is asking about, right? And what we're talking. And after that, we would actually you can either reassign it back to so let's say it was assigned to like Ali, and then you can reassign it back to the bot, or you can even add the new tag with a context. Or what you can actually do, you can add, for example, like a note, right? So you can add a note, and then you would assign this conversation to an actual bot back, and this bot will have the context of what the human said. Anyways, there are a lot of the possibilities. So what I'm saying, my point is that I'm trying to find the reason why. So the MCP, human in the loop, is not the benefit. What, like changing APIs is not the benefit. Complexity, security, it's not the benefit. Obviously, it's actually worse. So the only benefit that I actually see is that like this type of that you don't need to have like 50 or 100 different endpoints when you're building an army of this of the different agents. Yeah, sure. So this is, I think, a really good use case, and people will start building around it. But when it comes to real life scenarios that can be actually solved or used by the businesses and not by individuals, I think this is something that is not super useful. But guys, I make money out of the AI. So I have I have the YouTube channel, I have my agency, I have my one prompt startup, I have all of the things around AI. So I'm not trying to shit on AI and say, yeah, like this is overhyped. No, it is the thing. Like it's gonna be everywhere, and we'll like interact with it. But I'm trying to take the strategic pessimism approach and trying to be clean and clear on where I'm going forward and towards, and how like these new tools can help me to achieve the results and the outcomes that we want for ourselves and for the businesses that we work with. Share your thoughts in the comments. Would love to hear what you guys think. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.